In this video, I'm going to be talking about toxic people and the law of attraction and how you can deal with these difficult people with a key technique such that you can maintain that high frequency state of being and that sense of alignment and connection with your desire so that you can see it manifest for you. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Tom, and I make videos that help you empower your higher self and manifest your dream life. If you'd like to win 60 minutes of one-on-one coaching with me, comment below. It is done. Winners are announced every week. Before we talk about these toxic or negative, difficult people, I want to throw out a disclaimer, and that's that these people aren't evil or bad per se, not in an absolute sense. They can be challenging, but there are lots of positive growth aspects in that challenge. But when it comes to these people, they are a part of us at the deepest level. And when we think about what Gandhi said, an eye for an eye makes the world blind, when we absolutely hold feelings of hate and contentment to these people, we're actually wounding ourselves and keeping us trapped in an emotional connection with them, and thus our frequency of consciousness is always going to be harboring something that is out of our best interest. So I'm not saying you have to forgive or forget these people right here, right now. It's not like that. It's a growth process, and lots of healing takes place, and lots of time and distance is often needed. But in the grand scheme of things, these people aren't evil or bad, and they are worthy of our love and acceptance, just as everything else in reality, of which we most deeply are, is also worthy of that love. So, with that being said, let's define these toxic people so you have more of an idea about what we're talking about. I'm sure you already have some clue, but these are the kinds of people that are highly critical, highly negative. They play the victim role in life, and they're constantly pessimistic about their past and the chances they should have had and the opportunities they should have got, how people should have treated them, etc. They play old stories. They're emotionally and sometimes physically, in the worst case, abusive and manipulative, and they drain your energy overall, leave you feeling really limited, doubtful, anxious, sad, and fearful in your own state of being. And they can really make you feel impaired in your ability to see a positive future and to expand and align most powerfully in your true self, your higher self. So as you can see, they can be quite a problem. In saying that, how do these people relate to the law of attraction? Well, our consciousness creates reality, our frequency of consciousness, made up of our thought energy and our imagination, our feelings and our actions, as well as our spiritual or beingness connection to life. This is the sum total of who we are in relation to our lives on earth. And when a person of a negative frequency of consciousness comes in, this toxic or difficult person, well, essentially they feed that energy into us. We absorb some of their consciousness or their frequency into our being, and this impairs our most effortless alignment with our desire and our dream life. They are such a dominant energy sometimes that it's difficult to empower yourself over them. And it becomes an unnecessary battle that can be very psychologically, emotionally, and physically draining. So that's why it's important to address this when it comes to manifesting your desires. So when we move on to this, we've covered the first 2 points, but then let's look at point number 3. And this is that the idea that you are on a life track at all times. And this life track is basically a series of present moments, and whatever is in your subconscious mind, whatever has been impressed in there, your desires, your beliefs, etc., is part of this life track that's going to unfold for you. So you are the star of your movie, and your happiness is the greatest gift you can give. Your happy, peaceful, content, high vibration frequency. Because when you are in this happy state, you are literally progressing to greater and greater degrees of unselfishness. Because that's what enlightenment ultimately is, the higher we raise our emotional state of being. So if we look at this point here, everything comes from the infinite quantum field, or the infinite source consciousness, however you want to look at it. And it gets shined into this physical world of polarity in various lifelines. Each one of these lines represents a possible life for you, and it extends on infinitely in its expansiveness, because consciousness is expanding with love, and that is what is literally happening as the purpose of all of life. It's consciousness expanding itself in positive ways. So we have all of these life tracks, and now we have you. You are this dot over here, and you are a positive, empowered person overall. That is your dominant theme. You're healing yourself, you are using the contrast of life to form very meaningful, authentic desires to you, and you are traveling along life tracks, impressing your subconscious mind using all the techniques I cover on my channel, and therefore you are placing yourself on a trajectory towards your desires and towards high vibration or high frequency states of being. Happiness, joy, excitement, adventure, alignment, etc. But then down here, this X would be a toxic, negative person. And with them, they are resisting the natural expansive flow of life. And they are constantly in negative states of being, and they're resisting the natural expansiveness. And therefore, they are draining a lot of their energy and require a lot of energy to come in to support this process. Because we know our emotions are actually a guidance system for our connection to our true self from the plane beyond duality. This is the higher self within us, the source consciousness that spiritual enlightened masters are pointing to, the love without an opposite. And so when they are thinking these negative thoughts or these negative beliefs and defining the reality as a harsh obstacle that owes them something, rather than them being the creators with the thought power to manifest what they want and align themselves with their dreams, then they are in a resistant fundamental relationship with their true selves and the natural flow of reality. And so they place themselves in a frequency that's negative and therefore place themselves on a life track that inevitably manifests their deepest fears and low vibrations, which means suffering, pain, regret, sadness. But nonetheless, they inevitably create what's actually inside of them in their own frequency, in their own subconscious mind, and they don't realize it the whole time and they're in denial about it. This is a highly draining state of being to be in that requires a lot of energy, as I mentioned. And this is what the quantum physicist Vadim Zeland talks about in his book. So a negative person is looking along to fuel this negative frequency. And so say we look at these two middle life tracks now, you inevitably cross paths with the negative person, and this little grid box here represents a present moment frame in life where your paths cross. You are both the stars of your own movie, but in your movie scenes, you both reach a crossroads where each of you alternatively are playing as supporting cast for their movie. And so you cross paths, and what happens? They see an opportunity to gain energy by impressing you with negativity and trying to get you to react, give your awareness, give your energy, give your consciousness to them. And then when they do, they receive that. This can be in obvious direct forms when you either engage in a conversation that agrees with them, or you engage directly in a disagreeing way with them, antagonistically, or simply on a subconscious level, you're resisting them and you're thinking thoughts like, why are they here? This is so annoying, they are the worst, and you're judging them. They receive energy either way. And then, after that interaction, they travel along. But if you know this person, those interactions, those present moment intersections happen quite frequently. So you're constantly getting a taste of their negative energy, as I spoke about. So, with all that being said, you sort of understand the mechanics about how this works, why it happens, and why it's important to resolve it. Now let's give you a simple technique. And so before we do the technique, what we have to acknowledge is, as creators, we are responsible and we choose to create our lives with our unlimited free will. That's where we come from. And a part of that free will is to acknowledge that we play a role in everything that comes into our lives. And it's up to us to define it in a positive way and to take control of our own consciousness. And again, I want to emphasize is that your happiness is the greatest gift you can give to yourself and to others, which are truly all you at the highest levels. So this is about your happiness first and foremost. And when I was in India talking to the yogi that ran the ashram I stayed into, we stayed up one night talking, and after the years and decades of life wisdom and spiritual insight that he possessed, he gave me one advice, and that was self-care. Place yourself first, make yourself happy, and then you are a happy gift to everyone else. So that's important when dealing with these people, because they can guilt you into feeling like you have to pity them or entertain them or give them the time of day greater than you would naturally in your own value system and boundary system. So that's important to note. Okay, so the technique is this person will come into your life, and usually they will start a conversation and they will attempt to trigger you and hook you in some way. They'll try and bait you in. As soon as you detect this negative energy, and you can intuitively detect this sometimes, or very quickly in the conversation, you can get a sense of what they're saying and their attitude. Or you can just simply know that person and know what they're like, and don't necessarily assume they're going to be toxic all the time, but you have your spidey senses on. You have that sense of awareness of, I'm ready to apply the technique. So they come in and they will start starting a conversation. They'll start talking about the news, or how so-and-so did this, or something negative, or how you should have done this, and they start to pick an antagonistic, negative fight or conversation with you. At that point, you simply observe, allow, and ignore. And the whole point of this is that you are saying to reality, I allow all parts of you to exist. I accept all parts, and I'm not trying to deny it in existence, because that would be to deny reality, and that would place us in a state of friction with what is. We have to love what is, because all of it is us at the greatest level. So when we love what is, we love ourselves, we manifest what we want. So we already have to accept and allow them. And when they're talking, we stay completely neutral. And that's what that little face is. If you can see that, that's my completely neutral. We're at a 0-point relationship with them. We're not internally criticizing or judging them, and we're not externally giving anything more. And within ourselves, it's almost like what they're saying is going into our consciousness and just going all the way through. We are like an insulator with no resistance, or conductor. And we very much treat this like, in the book Reality Transurfing, he talks about how in an art gallery, when you're in the art gallery, which would be waking reality in our physical universe on Earth, that's the art gallery. There are various pictures on the wall, and you're walking through this art gallery, and when you see a picture you don't like, which would be the toxic person, it never occurs to you to rip it off the wall or criticize it internally and constantly keep looking at it. You simply acknowledge its existence, and then you move on to the next painting as quickly as possible. And then you start to resonate and align and rest your awareness and your consciousness on something that makes you feel good, on a painting you adore and lights you up. So same thing here. You're observing a manifestation of a negative frequency of consciousness, and you're just saying, no, that's okay. I allow that. I'm not buying into any of the contents of it. I'm remaining at a big picture level of saying this is a negative frequency, attempting to get my energy. You're acknowledging what that is at a bird's eye view energetic level. And so whatever they say, even if it's stuff that's important to you or relevant to you, try not to buy into it and just allow them to talk and say things like, that's interesting, or okay, that's interesting, and remaining neutral and tap into that own inner love for yourself as you do so. Eventually, again in the book Reality Transurfing, because I love that book, he talks about toxic people are like dogs, barking and chasing you, and so long as you just keep walking or keep moving forward in the right direction, eventually it gives up because it's too concerned about its own survival. It's got to just hassle the next person to see if it can scrounge around attention or scraps from. And so it's exactly like a toxic person. Eventually they will just subconsciously pick up the fact that they're not getting anything from you because you're remaining in a neutral point of view towards them, that they will just move on and go on for their next quote-unquote victim. Again, these aren't evil people. Usually this is all a subconscious dance and completely unknown to the person. It's just who they are. And you know that these people are like that as well. It's just the habitual thought cycles and behavioral patterns that they are operating on. It's their operating system, and this is what they do. So that's it. That's the whole technique. It is simply an allowing, observing, and ignoring. Now I want to give you a few tips, especially around the idea of ignoring. So ignoring them isn't about resisting thoughts, being like, I'm really trying to not think about them. It comes from a deeper place of understanding. Ignoring is equivalent to allowing. They're the same thing. It's a free-flowing consciousness. And that brings me to the idea of out of range thinking. This is when these people leave your present moment circumstances and situation, but you continuously think about them afterwards, feeling guilty, thinking about how they said this or that, or in any way giving your energy to them. Given the fact that we are in an entangled relationship with every single thing, that's what quantum physics is showing us. We still are giving that energy to them subconsciously, even outside of the present moment, and we're still draining our own frequency, bringing ourselves lower by addressing them. This goes back to allowing and ignoring them. It literally is like the event never happened. It's not that you pass through and go, yes, I passed the test. It's that you're so seamlessly in the flow that you just move on to the next positive thing, and your attention keeps building on positive momentum, events, objects, etc., around your desire especially. In saying that, be easy on yourself, give yourself lots of self-love. It's very unlikely you'll be able to be perfect with this all the time, especially if you are living in close proximity to a toxic person. They are very challenging, and love yourself and appreciate yourself. And if they do get you, don't beat yourself up. Just take some time later on to soothe yourself, to realign. You can sage yourself. I've been recently doing that, where you sage. I used to think that was such a hippie, new age thing to do, but I've really found that actually saging myself, I noticeably feel clearer in my consciousness and frequency and alignment to my desires and dreams. So you can sage yourself and just do whatever you can to align, empower yourself before you have to deal with them again. Next one is look for a long-term solution, which you kind of already are when you're manifesting your desires and dreams. You're aligning yourself with a life where these people just will be very few and far between. Everyone around you will be positive, empowering, self-chosen, self-activated in your consciousness, high-frequency people that support you, that love you, that nourish your dreams and desires, and give you only positive value. That is ultimately where you want to be, and sometimes some practical thinking, maneuvering over a long-term basis is necessary. And remember, as long as you're on the path to self-love, to manifesting your desires, to empowering yourself, these people will eventually all fall away seamlessly in time. That is exactly what the process of the law of attraction will guarantee for you. So if you like this video, please like it, please leave me a comment and subscribe to my channel, and check out my website if you'd like to have one-on-one coaching with me. It'd be great to have you for a session.